Well, there's nothing like being a physician. It's really a privilege of my lifetime to be a physician, and that's how I think about it. It's one opportunity, and you want to capture on that opportunity to the maximum you can. And there's no better system in the whole world better than the US system in terms of training and in terms of the experiences that you get. It's very organized. And here we're talking about the advantages of the US training system. It's organized. It is homogeneous, which means no matter where you train, whether in California or in New York, you'll be getting the same level of training and experiences. And whether you are in an academic center or a community center, still you'll be getting the same training and experience. The training system is supervised by the ACGME, which is a body that overlooks all the residency programs. And if there's an issue with any residency program, they will intervene, and they really make sure the residents are well trained and they are not being used for service. So that's why all the graduates from the American healthcare system really they have solid training and really excellent experiences. Also, the moment you are in the system, which means you match in residency program, things will be much easier from there. Most of the applicants for fellowships after residency, they match, most of them. I would say at least 68% of the foreign medical graduates who apply for fellowship, they will match. So here we're talking about more than a 2/3 chance. And even the 1/3 who did not match, if they apply again, they will match the year after. So it's very secure system. And I think it's the best training system in the whole world. Now, disadvantages and things that you should be aware of. I would say the most important thing that you should be aware of is that it costs to enter the system. Here we're talking about the cost of 3 USMLE steps. Step 1, step 2 CK, and there was step 2 CS, but it's not there anymore. There are 5 pathways. Depending on your training, you can choose one of these pathways, but still it's expensive. You're talking about around $1,000 to get through each step. So total cost will be $3,000. Now, in the past, there used to be in-person interviews. So when you come to the States to interview, you have to travel, and that will be translated into cost for flights and staying in hotels. So in total, you are talking about maybe something like $10,000 before, but these days most programs will do virtual interviews, so that will cut down the cost significantly. And here I expect most of the candidates, they have to consider cost of around $3,000 to $4,000, which is the cost for the USMLE steps. Also, you need to invest significant time, especially in the medical school, to read, and prepare yourself for USMLE. So if you know yourself, you're heading to the US healthcare system, I would like you during the medical school to start reading the material for USMLE, and it's similar to the material that you read for your clerkships and for your basic science courses. These are usually Kaplan questions, Kaplan material, and there are different resources, first aid and all these things. So the requirement, you have to graduate from medical school that is accredited by the or that is listed on the WHO. And there's recent change also. There's different way of accrediting medical schools. So most of the Palestinian medical schools are accredited. Next step is to apply for the ACFMG. After you apply, if they approve their application, you can book your USMLE step 1, step 2 CK, and also do one of the pathways. Then after that, you'll be ACFMG certified. So this is the entry for the US system. After you are ACFMG certified, which means you took step 1, step 2 CK, and one of the pathways, and you received your certification, then you'll be applying to programs through a system. It's called ERAS. So what will happen is that you'll send your application to hundreds of residency programs, and you'll wait for them to send you interviews. It's not really waiting, because also you have to be active, and you contact the programs, and you contact people that are connected to these programs. So it's active waiting. Now, when you get your interview with these programs, you have to talk about your achievements and who you are and why you are interested in that program. So hopefully, each candidate get some interviews. It varies. Some people don't get interviews, others may get 10 interviews. So let's take for example somebody who took 10 interviews. You'll be listing these residency programs based on your preference, which one you really liked the most. That will be on the top of your list, number 1, and which one you did not like, it will be at the end of your match list. Then after that, the residency programs will list the candidates that they interviewed on different lists, and the ERAS, this system, it tries to match each candidate with their top program that they picked. But if that program did not pick the candidate, then it will go to the second choice, then third choice, and so forth. So this is the match process. And if somebody match in residency program, then after that, the residency program will contact you and will arrange for the visa and the transfer to the residency program in the States. So internal medicine, family medicine, and pediatrics, these are the easiest specialties to match in. And the subspecialties under these specialties are also easy to match in. If you are a resident, it's much easier to match to a fellowship. Now, subspecialties that are really more difficult, but not impossible, but it will require more preparation, will include surgical subspecialties. It's more difficult to match in surgical specialties such as general surgery, neurosurgery, ophthalmology, ENT. Um, these are more difficult, and also dermatology. It's a specialty on its own, not under medicine. It's separate. It's more difficult to match in. Now, why did I say it's more difficult but not impossible? Because it's possible you can match in surgery, but that will require spending time doing research, having publications in order to differentiate yourself from other candidates. So, people will need to work on their CV and especially enrich it with things like research and publications and connection. So these are the keys for success in any specialty for the match season. But again, internal medicine, pediatrics, family medicine, these are much easier to match in. When I say much easier, it does not mean it's really easy. We as foreign medical graduates have to prepare and to differentiate ourselves from other applicants by having really solid CV. So for all specialties, there are 3 years, and here we're talking about emergency medicine, family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics. Surgery is 4 years. Neurosurgery, it is longer. I think it might be up to 6 years. Plastic surgery, it will be also in the same time frame, around 6 years. Now, fellowships after residency will be 2 years. So let's say if somebody is interested in cardiology or gastroenterology, that will be 3 years of internal medicine and 2 years in the subspecialty. So if people are interested in coming to the States because of the salary for residency, they should think of another place, because usually the salary for a resident, it ranges, and that's based on cities and the cost of living. But for the first year fellow, usually it's around $51,000 per year. Now, you may find a first year resident in New York getting $57,000 because the cost of living in New York is higher than Toledo, for example. So it varies, I would say plus minus 15%, but it's around $52,000. And usually the $52,000, if you have family, and 1 or 2 kids, it barely can provide you with the decent living you are looking for, because on average, the renting cost will be around $1,000 for an apartment. And add to that, car, gas, groceries. So you'll be living, with this minimum salary. Now you'll be getting free. It's not totally free. It will be deducted from your salary, the health insurance, but you pay 1 portion, and the program pays 3 portions. And you'll be getting dental and vision insurance as well. Now, the salary for attending after you graduate, it's much better. We're talking about 5 times the average of the resident. For the fellow, it's very close to the resident. So let's say for fellowships, you are talking about maybe $60,000. But for attendings, usually it's somewhere between 250, and some subspecialists can, receive compensation close to 700 or 800,000, but this is not common, and that's per year. So things get better when you are an attending, which means you're a specialist. So the expenses for the journey will be mostly related to doing the USMLE, step 1, step 2, CK, and one of the pathways. And I think for step 1, there will be a center in Ramallah where you can do the USMLE. I don't think there's a center in Gaza for USMLE. We pushed for it, but and when I say we, the PAMA pushed for it, but I don't think it worked because of political reasons. Now, the journey. Yes, if you are doing electives, that will cost. And the cost of electives per month, you are talking about probably a couple of $1,000 you have to pay for the healthcare system that you'll be going to, in addition to the living expenses, which will be around maybe $3,000, including rent and just living day-to-day expenses. So you're talking about $5,000. In my opinion, doing electives may not be the best choice for people to improve their CV. We understand, there's limitations, financially, and limitations because of the COVID. Not too many people come to do electives, and the significance of having an elective experience is much less emphasized these days compared to before. So if you did not have the chance to do elective, no worries. Likely you still get the same chance as somebody who got electives, and you have saved $5,000. Now, other expenses that you need to consider, expense of travel to the States before you start the residency program, you and your family, and here you're talking about tickets. The cost is somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500 per person. Renting an apartment, and here you are talking about $1,000 on average, but in some states and cities like New York, good luck finding something for $2,500 even. It's much more expensive than any other cities. Now, just I want to go back to the salary structure that we talked about. Keep in mind that, when you are paid $50,000, likely you are not getting $50,000 because there is a tax code, and the tax, including, federal, state, city tax, sales tax, add them together, and you're talking about 25 to 50% of your income will go for taxes. So this is the caveat about high salary compared to Palestine, for example. $52,000 a year, that's a lot of money in Palestine, but not in the States because of the living expenses, number one, and then number two, the tax code. It's way more expensive. So the living expenses in the States will be mostly related to the day-to-day expenses, which means groceries, gas, car insurance, and buying or renting or leasing a car. So on average, I think you need somewhere between $3,000 to $4,000 a month in expenses to have really decent living. Um, so I think, that will be close to what you will be getting in terms of compensation and during the residency. So obviously, the residents are taxed less compared to, the specialists, because their income is less. If you are getting income less than $50,000, the tax code will be 18%, the federal tax code. Whereas if you are getting $500,000 a year, the tax code will be 38%. So there's 20% additional tax. But in general, I would say $3,000 to $4,000 will be adequate to buy groceries, fill your fridge, and take care of your family. So research is very important, and it's one of the things we in the residency programs look at in order to rank the candidates. So even the slightest effort you put in research will be recognized, because we are aware of people graduating from foreign medical schools and having limited resources, especially if there are students who are really busy. The student life is a busy life. So if you dedicate time for research, this will be recognized, especially if you publish it. And we're looking for people who have the seeds of becoming scholars in the future. So if they get the chance to work in really good system with adequate resources, they will be successful. So even the slightest effort you put in research, that will be recognized. And things like writing case reports, systematic review, and review of the literature, these are easy things to do compared to randomized controlled studies, which, even here, we have limited resources to do that. So I would like each candidate who is considering, a pathway to United States or United Kingdom or Europe to consider publishing at least one case report or two, doing systematic review, and we will have a series of talks in October about systematic review in collaboration with MD Guidance, Palestine Osmosis, PAMT, and PAMA.